Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the October Commissioners' regular meeting. We will start with the roll call. Larry?
Good evening. Mr. D'Amelio. Here. Mr. McCluskey.
Here.
Mr. Siegel.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Holmes.
Here.
Mr. McGarity.
Here.
Mr. Oliva.
Here.
I'm sorry, Mr. Wexler. I apologize.
I'm here.
And Mr. Oliva.
Here.
Mr. Connell will be arriving late, correct?
Yeah, he'll be here in a few minutes. I am standing in for him. Okay. Our opening prayer will be from Mary Shannon from the Ministerium.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for our democracy, for the right to be heard by our government, and to have a say in choosing our leaders. And we ask you to bless all of our government leaders, including those here in this room. Give them wisdom and discernment to make decisions for this community that will be for the good of all. We thank you for those who serve this community, our police department, fire department, paramedics, schools, and libraries. We also thank you for the organizations that work to make this community a better place. Organizations that advocate, educate, care for our children, protect our environment, and nurture our spiritual lives. Tonight, we are mindful of the opioid crisis that is occurring here in our community and in the communities across the country. Be with those who are battling addiction and their families. Be with our first responders as they encounter and are on the front lines to help those who are suffering in this epidemic. Help us all to be compassionate and to do our part to end the stigma of mental illness and addiction. We ask this all in the name of our Creator. Amen.
Chief?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Starting off this evening, we will start off with the EAC presentation. Peter?
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Peter Puglianese. I'm the co-chair of the Haverford Township
Thank you.
Environmental Advisory Committee. I want to thank the board for squeezing us into their busy schedule tonight and hearing this update on our progress on the 2008 Climate Change Action Plan. I know you all recall a few weeks ago we did a little presentation on the history and we promised to come back with access to the information to give us all an update on where we are relative to the goals that we set in 2008 to achieve by the year 2020. So this is a preliminary update based on township-provided data and based on Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission data for the public, the community at large. Okay, so why a progress report? Well, we talked about this last time. The Climate Action Plan itself went through an inventory, established a plan and goals, but it also talked about ongoing updates of where are we now. Okay, so the original plan looked at all of the energy consumptions, all of the greenhouse gas emissions related to that, an estimate for both the government sector and the community at large, and it set a goal to reduce emissions by 30%. So before what you're hearing today, we really have had no update of, well, where are we now since 2008? So this will be the first. Today's update includes the community at large and trends mainly for electricity and natural gas and the associated CO2 emissions. Does not cover transportation. Why? Because the data is not available to us. It includes municipal trends, things like electricity for street lights and facilities, but also transportation, diesel fuel, gasoline, and the next, we'll talk a little bit about the next steps. It does not include the school district data. Okay, we have requested, and that's approval is pending to get school district data, so stay tuned for that, although really that presentation will more logically be to the school board. And it doesn't include specific residential commercial data. Again, it's not, that kind of specific data is not available. Now, this effort was done by volunteers. There was a lot of work put into it. A special thanks to Steve Clark, who put in an incredible amount of time, EAC member Rob Graff, and Melissa Romano, a volunteer, who put in a lot of time helping to compile the data. But it does not include, we decided to just limit it to maybe the top 5 buildings and the top categories. It represents, though, over 95% of the energy and greenhouse gas emissions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Steve. Steve Clark.
Hey, thank you. My name is Steve Clark. I'm a volunteer, a professional engineer. So I'll go through some of these numbers. We have quite a bit of data here. I'll try to leave enough time for question. So what you see here are the trends for the whole township for electricity and gas. So we have residential electricity and non-residential. This is done by the picometer type. So this is for the whole township again. And so you can see the trends from 2005, 2010, 2015. We don't have more recent data, but you can see the residential looks largely flat, and the other ones are increasing a little bit. Convert this to carbon dioxide emissions, which is the point of this presentation. There's one thing that's really important to note is the electricity on the grid has been getting a lot cleaner since 2005 by about 27%. And this is because of coal is being phased out for the cheaper natural gas largely in this time period. People are also buying or electing to buy more renewable power. That's driving the market as well. But when you put all this together for the whole township in the bottom, that little table, the total energy for the township use has gone up 14%. This doesn't include, as Pete said, gasoline, heating fuel. This is natural gas and electricity, but this is 90, probably 5% of the residential, the stationary carbon emissions. Greenhouse gases have gone down a little bit. It's by 6%. That's because electricity has gotten cleaner. So that's the trend. So the cleaner electricity has offset the actual increase in energy use for the township. Now we're looking at township assets. So we have township facilities between 2005 and between the last 2 years. I took the average. So on the left we have is transportation, gasoline and diesel for township purposes. You can see they're largely, there's not really a trend there. We have the street lights, and you can see that there's been a nice decrease because of the LEDs being put in there. The stadium actually has shown a decent sized increase in energy use. Same with the library. And the other facilities don't use a whole lot compared to those two. And then the CREC is on the far right, which uses quite a bit more than I think at least I expected. So now we're looking at the same kind of data, but this is actual carbon. So So you can see for transportation, they make up a huge amount of the carbon for the township. And streetlights have gone down a lot because not only is electricity use gone down because of the LEDs, but the electricity is cleaner, because the grid electricity is cleaner. Stadium is about neutral, largely because of those two trends balancing itself out. It's using more energy, but the energy is cleaner. So that's kind of a neutral there. And so if you look in the bottom, this is really a snapshot of where the township, in terms of energy and carbon, is today. 2% increase, which is very negligible in terms of precision of all this, pretty much staying the same, but a 12% drop in carbon. Again, largely driven through the cleaner electricity on the grid and the streetlights. I'll just show some snapshots of specific parts of what we just showed there in more detail. The top is the streetlights, what's been done, almost 780 done to date, but there's plenty more that could be done. For the stadium, this is pretty interesting. If you look at this is from PICO, the electricity over the last 7 years, it's been really not much change. I only have the last 2 years of gas. So something may have happened between 2005 and 2010 for it to increase by that much. I don't really know what it is, but that's what the data tell us. The library, although we know it's going to be renovated, this is a trend that I thought was a little bit alarming. The usage just keeps creeping up and up, and could be a variety of reasons for that, but that's one of the reasons why the library has increased its use. So here's a summary of just what I just went over. For the township-wide, electricity and gas has gone up 14% since 2005. This is between 2005 actually and 2015, so that's the latest data we have. Municipal facilities, including transportation, have gone up 2%, so pretty much holding it, staying the same for energy. But because of the fact that electricity has gotten cleaner, the township total has gone down 6%, and the municipal has gone down 12%. So that's because, again, the electricity is getting cleaner. So in this case, the municipal facilities have been doing better than the residential, for sure, and so certainly more outreach is needed for people to conserve and reduce carbon. Okay, so this is something that I thought is very helpful that Pete suggested we added. So that was a snapshot of where we are today. But to hit the goal in 2020, let's just take an estimate of where we could be if the plans continue for converting, say, all of the streetlights to LEDs. How much energy, how much carbon would be saved? If we save about 25% for the new police station compared to the current facility, and the library, those renovations would save 25%. It's not aggressive, but it's a reasonable assumption. If you look on the far right, energy would drop by 6% instead of going up 2%, and the carbon would be dropping by 20%, 21%. So it's in reach of the goal of 30%, but additional things would have to be done, most likely, in my opinion, to get to there. And these are just estimates, of course. And then we'll talk about, Pete will go over some of the things, unless people have questions. Actually, we're almost out of time. We have a lot of suggestions and things like that, but we'd like to see if there's anyone who'd like to discuss.
Yeah, I just had a question.
Sure.
So at the Crec Center, we use a combination of geothermal and electric. Did you look at that? And if we had just used electric exclusively versus a combination of the two, what have we done in terms of reducing our footprint as a result of that combination?
Well, it only uses electricity, so the geothermal is powered by electricity. It's a geothermal system, and it's very efficient for heating and cooling. I can see that in the data, but there's other uses that I think should be looked at of what may be driving up the usage there, and that's something that we can
No,
certainly
that
look
didn't
at.
answer the question.
Yeah, I'm just-
The question was, what if the geothermal power wasn't in place? Can you project how much that would have?
We didn't do that projection.
I did not do that. Yeah.
But Steve did look at sort of a benchmark of recreation centers around the country, and the overall usage was sort of on par with the national average. So we were a little surprised that the baseline was as high as it is. That's why we're identifying that probably O&M improvements, strategies, how it's operated, may be able to bump that down.
Yeah, those are really inexpensive things to do that, how you run, are the lights turned off at night? Is there a setback? Are the pumps well controlled? Things like that we could certainly assist in looking at, but would save a lot of money as well.
Well, and let's compare apples and oranges here. You talk about whether the geothermal is saving us money. We're not taking into account that the CREC is now how many years old?
5.
And we know that we're going to go decades before anything in the geothermal system breaks down. And so if we haven't already saved on maintenance, we will save significantly on maintenance with this, this system that's good for 30 years.
But the point is that without that geothermal power, without the geothermal heating and cooling, what would it be without that?
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't answer that tonight, and we haven't looked under the hood
Okay.
beyond the high. I mean, this is really a high-level look at where the bars are based on the data.
Right,
So-
because I can imagine there must be a very, is a substantial savings to us if we didn't have the geothermal power.
I totally agree with that. It would be a lot higher.
So, I mean, that should be added into our, to what,
Evaluation.
evaluation of what we're doing.
So I'm a little confused.
Net news, so there's nothing to compare.
No, I mean, but I'm saying, so that we know what the savings have been over the last 5 years.
And the reduction
With
in
it,
the
right, the
carbon
reduction, a real,
Well, there has to be,
It may be-
a reduction. There has to be if we.
Right,
do
right, by
geothermal.
definition, because without,
yeah,
other
I
than
mean-
just the electricity necessary to pump water down into the earth's, down and then back up again.
Right.
Your heating and cooling stuff that you'd otherwise have to expend energy to do. I'm not sure that they can ever get to that calculation, Mr. Vice President, because we don't know what it would have cost to run the place without the geothermal. I think the point they're making right now is that they expected to see a significant decrease in electricity, and they're not seeing it.
Well, see, I
And it's
agree
like-
with that, Larry.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that may
I
be
totally
just
agree with
because
what
of
you're saying.
the usage is pretty much, 7 to 9 o'clock at night, or 6 or 7 days a week?
It's hard. I think going back to what Peter's saying, this is a very general look from up top. So unless I was to sit down with these guys and really understand a little better what the data is showing,
Yeah.
it kind of, I don't want to say.
We can
there's-
take a
there's
closer
almost no
look,
point
and
in giving
next
an
time-
answer. Yes, we do
next
run
time.
7 days a week, 14 hours a day, but either way, it's.
Certainly.
But
I have
right.
to understand a little better what they're looking at. To be correct.
But it may be that you can operate those pumps at 30% power for a certain number of hours of the day, and 75% power, and 100% power when you need the most output.
Right, and I was gonna say
And we are
that-
not doing that right now.
It has to be, it can't be just lighting. It has to be the pumps. If
Exactly.
you think logically, it has to be the
Yeah,
pumps.
yeah.
So either.
But again, I think
but-
we just may be over, we may be overusing the system, and it's just not necessary.
or we're using it longer than other
Who can call for that?
recreational facilities
They were right on
do.
the
So
median.
they might run a 12-hour day, we might run
Well,
a 14-hour.
but we're on the median of recreation centers around the country, not on the median of recreation centers that have geothermal devices. So that's why they're intrigued by this data, is because they ought to see it below the median of rec centers across the country.
But-
They
but-
don't, but we may just not be using the system efficiently.
But when we put that system in, there was supposed to be a savings per year. What was that savings?
600 grand?
Well, the
remember
estimation
it.
was that it would
Percentage-wise.
save us probably 30-35% on our energy usage because we had geothermal.
Right.
That was the
I mean,
expectation.
it's just mind-boggling that we're,
Again, it's
Well-
hard to compare anything because
you
when
can
say a
you,
rec center, that's just.
Right, all we're
doesn't-
doing is comparing it to a median. So it may very well be that our system would be, that without it, we would just happen to have a rec center that's cranking out electric use and energy use in much higher than the median. There is no doubt.
Absolutely.
No doubt that the geothermal equipment that we installed is reducing the energy needs of that rec center.
but I think.
We'd like to see it.
You guys
Yeah, we'd like to
should
see it
really
lower,
get
of
together
course.
with
Yeah.
That's
Tim.
what we're proposing here
Yeah,
to do, is
I
to
would-
dig into it and.
Yeah.
I'd be curious as to why it's that high.
We were hard pressed to get this far this quickly, so apologize for not being able to.
No, we're just, there's no problem.
Don't
We're just-
apologize, Peter.
And on
Okay.
a completely different topic, if I have my history right, that uptick in the stadium coincides with the brand-new ice sheet, doesn't it? It
I
was
would think.
2010, we did the new floor.
Yes.
And I am guessing.
New roof.
And the new roof. And so you
Yeah, I'm
have.
surprised with
they
that
may
number.
take more electricity, but you have way more use now of that stadium with the newer facilities. I mean, way more, closer to capacity in terms of skating around the clock. So it's just natural you got more lights, and we have ice 12 months a year now, and we don't shut down for what was it, 60, 90 days we used to shut down the ice? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's part of it. I
that
think.
makes perfect sense that you see this one-time blip in the stadium, but then otherwise see a generally even, line with a couple peaks and valleys.
Well, let's also, I mean, just to take a step back as to what all this is that, in June, we received a presentation and we asked the EAC to help us and issue a report sort of to give us an idea of where we are. And that's what this is. I don't know if we need to go through and discuss and figure out, obviously that makes sense with what you said about the stadium, but I don't think we have to decide at this meeting tonight. I mean, what we need to do is take this report from the EAC and take the information that's in its totality about the CREC, about the stadium, about, the pros and the street lights, and hopefully we can keep putting them in each ward in the LED, and that's obviously had an impact. That's, something that's
Right.
apparently obvious. But so what this is really just, as Peter's saying, an overview report of areas where we can take this information, and there'll certainly be, I think, with the CREC and with other areas, we can investigate more as to why. And if there's simple ways to cut, that's what we can look to do. But that's what this is tonight. We didn't,
Yeah,
know.
I mean,
Right,
I
but you
think-
wouldn't want anybody to take away from this that things are going okay, but there's a problem with the stadium and a
Yeah,
problem with the
right.
CREC
No,
Center.
and I don't.
That's why we had to lay that
Right,
out.
and we're
Right.
trying to figure out, because we're receiving this information, and we're kind of surprised by it too. It's information we did not know, and so we're kind of throwing things around about what it could be and why, and obviously there's a concern there, so,
But as I understand, the EIC likes the trends and has a positive outlook of getting there.
Well, we have
That's
made
a
some-
simple yes question. Not yes or no, by the way. It's a simple yes.
We have made improvements.
Yeah.
The township is doing better than the community at large, there's no question about it. Although the other takeaway is, let's not be too proud, most of the improvements are due to the improvements in the electrical mix that's generated on the grid. That's produced, we have an overall flat energy profile. We're projected to go down with a lot of the LED changeovers. But a bigger bump is actually the fact that we in Pennsylvania, southeast Pennsylvania, are putting more cleaner power into the grid.
But some of these changes, and we're not going through them tonight, but you've given us recommendations in your handout.
Yeah, we can get into that.
Well,
And I think the other big takeaway that I have from this is, look, we're doing a lot of things in the next couple years. You know, we're going to be moving into a new building. We're going to be renovating a library. You know, hopefully we're going to continue with the street lights. We're going to continue to purchase vehicles over the, you know, for the
Every year.
foreseeable future. You know, there's lots of areas where we can at least keep this in mind as we move forward and see what improvements we can make. And I think that's the largest takeaway, is that, you know, as we transition from this building to the next, and as the library transitions in their progress, this is something to keep in mind, because, you know, those numbers are achievable if we're conscious of it as we transition as a township to the new buildings.
And I think any improvements we make are cumulative. Each one of those things makes each next year better, and then we do.
Right.
As we replace more and more of the fleet, and we're able to take advantage of alternative fuel vehicles and otherwise alternative fuel, you know, power for the things that we need to do in public works, each time we replace one of those and replace another one of those, we're going to build a cumulative kind of deficit here to start cutting away at what we're doing.
So we would like to help you look at those future improvements. I definitely think transportation component is a big opportunity that we haven't really explored. Well, we haven't moved on yet. I know that the township had looked at CNG, unsuccessfully applied for a grant. It's that kind of measure, and some others that are going to be easier, which we can talk about, that I think we can pursue. The building efficiencies, Scadium, Creek. The other thing that we have to recognize that EAC, part of EAC's mission is public outreach, is that the plan is not just for the government operations. The plan is for the whole community. And of course, the difficulty as a government entity is you don't really control people's actions. But so how do we achieve the same effect in the community is something EAC is struggling with. And one of our suggestions, obviously, is continue to lead by example as the government of Haverford. And the more visible and the more vocal the government is, and maybe the commissioners themselves are as individuals, it breaks down some of the barriers to change that we'd like to see in the community. And for our part, we're doing outreach. We have listed a bunch of specific options for government. There's good news on the horizon, which I just communicated to Larry recently, which is Ford is now coming out with a hybrid responder vehicle. It's actually a few $1,000s cheaper than the Explorer-based vehicle. And studies have shown, as far back, there's a 2013 study that shows that hybrid police vehicles will save, on average, $4,300 a year per vehicle on a life cycle basis. And and part of the reason is not, it's actually much, much more than you would save on your personal vehicle, because the nature of policing involves a lot of being in the vehicle and idling. And for those of you who have been in hybrid vehicles, the engine shuts down. And if it needs to boost power, it turns back on, but everything else is working. Power, radio, air conditioning, it's all working. So that's logical. My favorite is a Zero electric motorcycle police cruiser in lieu of Harleys. I actually own a Zero now. But that's, if you ever replace the motorcycles, that's a great option, because, again, it will
Kind
save
of ruined
money.
ships, right? I mean, that's,
It will save
Idling
money.
at a traffic light.
It also doesn't make noise, okay, but which a lot of motorcycle riders are offended by that, but police should actually appreciate it because it's stealth. So
yeah, but loud pipes save lives. Cars don't see motorcyclists, and that's the reason for the loud noise, so that they can see them coming from a mile away and know they're in the road.
although I don't
That's,
think
but
police-
for us, that's minimal. I mean, we don't, the biggest use for transportation are public works vehicles,
Police cars.
Police cars, it's
Yeah,
not so
trash
much the
trucks.
motorcycles. I don't want to spend too much
And
time on that.
the police cars are a big component of that transportation fuel.
Yeah.
Public Works trucks, so CNG was looked at. There's another option which the school district is actually putting its toe in the water on. They've purchased a few propane-powered buses, so the upfront cost is lower, and it has not quite the same reduction in greenhouse, but some significant reduction, quieter, cleaner. So that's a possibility for the truck fleet as well. There is a DEP alternative fuel incentive grant program where basically they will pay for a government-wide transportation study that looks at the options and tells you what the costs and benefits are. And, as we talked about, we can look at building. There's a lot of other things, the Creek and the Stadium, but also interior building lighting. The other thing I wanted to mention is the thing that has helped the community as a whole is cleaner electric power. Okay, and governments can, like individuals can, elect to buy 100% renewable power. So that's an option that could actually give a very rapid bump down in the entire greenhouse gas profile of the township. So that's something that could be looked at. We do have a long-term contract to 2020. They may be amenable to renegotiation for renewable power.
Now,
So that's something that's out there.
Peter, is there a resource available for residents to give them guidance on how to negotiate renewable power with their current electrical companies?
Glad you asked that question.
It's almost like it was set up.
EAC is doing several workshops in the coming weeks. Okay, and one of them, which is flashed up there, is a workshop at the.
Wow.
That's the wrong date, isn't it? No, that's the right date. Wednesday, November 1st.
Somebody's running for
At the library, buying cheap renewable power. So we're going to model this process, but there is a phenomenal state website called papowerswitch.org, which is a great tool for making these decisions. And you can select 100% renewable, you can sort by price, and every time I have used it to demonstrate it to others and for myself, I have found power cheaper than PECO's price to compare. So you can get, if that is what you want, cheaper 100% renewable power. There is a new program, by the way. PECO is being encouraged by the PUC to promote alternative sources. And they have a program for a 7% reduction for participating power suppliers, that you'll get a rate that's 7% below PECO's. And Green Mountain Energy has told us that they will honor that, they will work under that program. So if you call Green Mountain Energy and you're a PECO customer and you say, I understand you participate in this 7% discount program, I want it, you can get 100% renewable power for 7% below PECO.
All right.
Peter, first off, thank you for, and the EAC for sponsoring these workshops, and thank you for putting the flyer together. I was able to send that out in a blast email to my residents, and I think just following up on Commissioner Holmes's point, I think it'd be helpful if you could put together a flyer that we might be able to distribute to residents about what they can do on an individual basis to help. One being the renewable energy purchasing renewable energy, and how you do that, and other thoughts, 2 or 3 or 4 items. Do your part, and kind of a flyer that we could distribute in the community. I don't know whether you could put that together.
Yeah.
What?
Happy to do that.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Thank you, Peter.
By the way, quickly, this Saturday, conquering your electric vehicle fears at the CREC. There will be electrics and plug-ins, including Bolt, Tesla, others.
I'll be there.
All right. I have under good authority, he's considering buying an electric vehicle.
Trading in your muscle car for a
He
electric
trades in his car at least 5 times a year.
Yeah, I've gotten rid of everything V8. Now we're in.
They see, what you don't know is they go very, very fast, very quickly.
They do.
They do. They got a lot of torque.
No. Yeah.
And the 23rd, Monday at the library, for those considering installing photovoltaic solar on their home, we will walk you through the process. People that have gone through the process will share what they went through. Renewable power, and then finally, November 19th, there is a dedication to Jan Marie Rushforth. So that's it. If you have any more questions, we'll be happy to answer it. Thanks for letting us go a little long.
Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. All right. Next up, our commissioner committee updates.
The environmental committee just went.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
We met this evening for the comprehensive plan. We're working on finalizing, putting our steering committee together, and once we finalize that, we will certainly present it to this board and to the public. So that happened this evening. So we're moving forward finally.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that we met in executive session prior to the meeting.
Wasn't about that, though.
Discussing personnel.
Yes, discussion
It was a personnel issue.
Right, the previous was only a four-person committee. And I would just repeat from last week, but look to last week's meeting for the details, but the upgrade in our bond rating from AA2 to AA1 was reported at last week's work session, and something the Finance Committee is very proud to report and eager to give the credit to where credit is due, our excellent Finance Director, Ms. Cuthbertson, and her crack staff.
All right.
And one more thing about the comp plan. I want to thank Kelly and Lori for your help in helping us get this moving. I know it's been tedious and long, but we're getting there. We see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay. Township auditor update? Gary?
Good evening. I've reviewed the disbursements for the period commencing September 12th and ending October 11th. I've raised a series of questions and asked for substantiation of certain expenses. They were all answered to my satisfaction by the Township's Finance Director. So in my opinion, there were no irregularities for the period in question. Thank you.
All right. We'll start with the Citizens Forum. First on the list, Jennifer Leith.
I'm Jennifer Leith. I'm the chair of the Human Relations Commission for Haverford Township. And I just want to briefly update you all on an outreach effort that we are doing at the HRC. One, to raise our profile a little bit, and two, to complement some of the work that's being done in the Haverford Township School District, specifically with some of the policies that they're putting in place regarding gender nonconforming students. We are putting forward a call for ideas, which is essentially asking students to create an actionable project that will result in their peers gaining a better understanding and appreciation for diversity among adolescents in the township. The winning project will ultimately be implemented in the second half of the school year in 2017-2018. This call for ideas is open to all 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade Haverford Township residents. The deadline to submit is December 1st. I do have information that I hope you will share with your constituents. I also have asked that this information be posted on the HRC's webpage, but I have not had any response to those emails, so I figure you are the people that can sort of make that happen and move that forward. So your assistance in having that happen would be greatly appreciated. And we look forward to sharing the results in March. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Krista Kerber.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to
Yes.
ask for your address.
Yes, sorry. It's Krista Kerber, 811 Powder Mill Lane, and it's Wynwood. And I'm here tonight as a member of the Havertown Area Community Action Network, HCAN. And I'm here to call attention to, a bit more attention, to the urgent need for local action to address the problem of climate change. So I just want to quickly get a show of hands to see who is here to support that tonight specifically. Thank you. First, we'd like to thank all of you for voting unanimously to approve a climate resolution this past July. Your resolution states that climate crisis is real, people caused it, and you call upon both federal and state government to take action now. So that is kind of an amazing thing in itself, thank you. And we're so proud of your willingness to take that stand that as a token of appreciation, we'd like to present you with a copy of The Lorax by Dr. Seuss, signed by the children who were at the rally this evening.
Oh, thank you very much. Nice.
I know that in the book, the Lorax speaks for the trees.
Tyler can do some reading this evening.
Gotta go in the back room now?
No.
You might need someone to
We
help with
invited
the
our
big words.
children, who will bear the brunt, obviously, of unchecked climate change, to the rally before the meeting to show our commitment as families to working together to keep our climate promise. We're also here to ask you tonight to take another step, to follow your own lead, and to do even more than you're already doing to address this major threat to our planet and to our children's future. Haverford already made a climate promise 8 years ago when commissioners approved a detailed climate change action plan, and the EAC addressed a lot of our progress on that tonight and included a specific goal, as you know, for reducing emissions of greenhouse gases by 2020. So we're thrilled that important changes have already been made that were highlighted tonight. And we're grateful to the hardworking volunteers of the EAC for having reviewed all of the utility bills and gone through all of that research and presenting the progress report tonight. So what are we asking you to do now? Number one, having listened with open minds and hearts to tonight's presentation, to take responsibility for acting to ensure that we reach the goals that were set. And it seems that you're all committed to doing that, so we appreciate that. Two, to begin to use the free and readily available tools that will allow the township's energy use, carbon dioxide emissions, and energy costs to be tracked and made public. And number three, to seriously consider switching to 100% renewable energy. As part of that, we ask you to charge the Environmental Advisory Committee with evaluating and reporting in a timely and transparent manner on the cost of renegotiating our township's long-term contract with Constellation Energy. Switching to 100% renewable would make us a leader in the fight for against climate change, sorry. And although it would probably cost some money, we don't know the cost because we haven't researched it. So we're asking that and asserting that we owe it to our children to research and pursue that option now. Westchester and Phoenixville have approved that last month and other municipalities have begun making commitment to renewable energy. So reducing our carbon footprint, as you know, isn't just a nice thing to do. It's something we have to do, and as a community, we can do that together.
Hey, thank you very much. Okay. Next up, Ann Phillips.
Hello, my name is Ann Phillips. I'm at 2628 Wendy Road in Havertown. And I am here as the president of the Freedom Playground Committee to ask for your help and also give you some updates. I have a handout for the commissioners. Everybody can take one. We are celebrating 7 years of the playground being open this month, and we are having another maintenance day on October 28th from 9 to 4. There's information on our website, haverfordfreedomplayground.org, and also on our Facebook page, Friends of Freedom Playground Committee. We are looking for people to sign up on our Sign Up Genius in order to take a 2-hour or more shift to come and help paint, help vacuum, and clean up some of the sand, which tends to get everywhere. And so that's been a big deal as far as just keeping the playground beautiful. Tim Denny, of course, Parks and Rec are responsible for keeping the playground generally maintained and specifically safe for everyone who comes there. But we have committed to Tim to help repair the ground cover, which was the single biggest cost of the playground. And of course, not surprisingly, it is starting to show some wear. So we've committed some of our current maintenance funds to help support that. We are still fundraising. There are still pickets for sale. You can have them engraved with your family name or children's names. And we still have components available for sponsorship. So we are continuing to fundraise. And so if you can keep that in mind when you're looking for holiday presents. I do have a bit of kind of exciting news for me. When we first opened the playground, one of the things that I said was that, it's terrific to have this playground in our community, but my biggest hope was that it would be an example to other communities. And in fact, after we opened the playground, I got calls from across the nation asking how we did it and how to do it. And so I know that there have been other playgrounds in the U.S. that have been modeled after Freedom Playground. I'm happy to report that there is one that happened to actually not only copy what we did, but use our name. So there's a new Freedom Playground in DeLand, Florida, that actually has the name Freedom Playground. So I don't know, I think we should be pretty proud of that. So I did want to just, give a shout out and a continued thanks to Tim Denny for all of the support that he's had for our committee. Of course, Larry and all the commissioners have been supportive from the beginning. In particular, both Mario Oliva and Andy Lewis were two of our earliest supporters, both financially and through generally supporting the committee. So thank you to everyone for that. I also wanted to thank our committee that we started with to begin with, because if we didn't have all the volunteers on our committee to begin with, the playground wouldn't have been, as it is now. And then since then, I've had a really terrific core group of committee members that have been with us since the playground opened. So it is that committee that is still continuing to do the beautification work at the playground and the continued fundraising as well. And I also wanted to thank all of our volunteers that came out. We had over 2,000 volunteers that came out the week that we built the playground. And since then, we've had, a few hundred come out over the course of the following weeks between when we originally built the playground and when we opened it up, and then on our maintenance days that we've had since then. So it's continued to be supported. I know there are a lot of people that come there. I've heard as many as 300 per day come to the playground, which is kind of astounding. We are closing down the playground, though, for this maintenance day. It's going to be closed for all of about 7 hours. We only do this once a year, so I'm asking for your patience as we know there are always people who show up who don't know that the playground's going to be closed, but this is what we do, and we do have to shut it down in order for just safety, because we're going to have ladders and that kind of stuff up at the playground. So anyway, Maintenance Day, October 28th. Please check out our Facebook page or our website to sign up. Thank you very much.
And could you send an email to us just so we can, in a PDF, so we could get this out?
Absolutely, yes.
And also how you can contribute it if you want to contribute.
Yes, I will do so. Thank you for asking.
I just wanted to add, first of all, it was a great experience, as you know, building the playground with you. But also, Commissioner Connell was there for the week also.
Yes.
Just wanted to add that to our thing. That
You guys were there the whole
yeah, we were
entire week.
there the whole week for the whole build, and it was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Neat. Some people actually go around building playgrounds. They follow, the
So like
track of
following Jerry
different-
Garcia around.
It's such a neat experience. It's such a great community, literally is a community building experience, because, I know a lot of friendships were made that week, amongst a variety of people. 2,000 people came out, and it's it's just so heartwarming to have every different type of person there, including some people with disabilities who came out and actually helped us build, artists and, people who never picked up a hammer or a screw gun before showed up and, brought their tools that maybe they never used before out of their garages. And, it was just great. It was just a great week.
What I was surprised at, it's not just the children with disabilities, but it's the parents
Right.
with disabilities who can use the playground to get
Yes,
into the
there's-
playground and play with their children.
Yes. There's a gentleman who I've seen there pretty frequently. He pushes a baby stroller in front of him, and he has like a 2 or 3 year old walking next to him. He's the one in the wheelchair. So it's not just for children with disabilities, it's for the whole family. Sometimes it's the sibling who can't go to a playground because the other sibling is disabled for one variety or another. Sometimes, you break your leg and you personally have a temporary disability. Then you have older people who are coming there as grandparents who maybe aren't terrific at walking up steps. So it spans the whole community, is affected by it. So, I think it's terrific. And the fact that it is being copied, I think is really, as I said that day to Tim, talk about leading by example. The township really is leading by example by doing things like, building a fully handicap accessible playground. And when I mean handicap accessible playground, I don't mean ADA compliant. A lot of people think, oh, okay, something's ADA compliant, meaning compliant with the American Disabilities Act, therefore it's accessible. The reality is that while the ADA is terrific and has made a huge difference in, across the United States, it did not specifically address the issues of play, because you can't get a wheelchair across mulch. So, that's really what sets it apart and why people come really from far away, far outside of Haverford Township to come to the playground, to come to Freedom Playground. So,
Thank you, Ann.
Great work.
I appreciate it.
Mario. I remember the day I went to help and I saw Mario there. He looked like a lumberjack, and he had sawdust just everywhere on his head.
It was a good time.
Yep.
Okay, next on the, we have here as a signed up speaker is Kelly Brennan from the Historical Society.
So short.
Make sure she,
Okay, my name is Kelly Brennan. Can you hear me now?
okay.
All right. Can you hear me now? My name is Kelly Brennan, and I live at 1611 Greenway Road, and I am here to talk to you about the Historical Society. Just here to give you guys an update on what's going on in the township buildings. We are right now halfway through our Colonial Living Experience program. I am the coordinator, and I work with the school district. We host all of the 5th grade classes at Nider Hall and Lawrence Cabin, and they spend the day doing colonial chores that kids would have done back then. They do candle dipping. We make our own food, breads from scratch, and soap. They spend the day actually washing dishes, and they're excited about it. Yeah. But it's a great thing, and this is what's going on at Nider Hall and Lawrence Cabin, which we are just thrilled that our township has these buildings to do this with, because this is a unique program that does not necessarily exist in all of our townships. So a lot of townships have historical sites where they have different stations, and kids come and they look and they see things. But at our program, kids are actually able to touch and feel and do everything. So it's a really fun day for them. And another thing that is going on this October is the Oktoberfest is one of our fundraisers. We do this annually, so I hope to see everybody there. But there will be live music and entertainment and beer. It is an adult festival. But yeah, it's this Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. And it's $25 for members, $30 for not members, and it's a great time for all, but it's also one of our fundraisers, and we'll have a silent auction. And so just wanted to invite you guys out to that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Your programs there are fantastic programs. When I was in fifth grade, we used to have it at the school itself, and it was great. Everybody was involved and what have you. Now that you have it at Nider Hall, the experience is that much better.
It really is.
It's
Thank
super
you.
job
Yeah.
with your program.
And I can tell you that I went through the program over in Nider Hall when I was in fifth grade, and I said to somebody, I want to work there when I grow up. And I had a girl last year who said that to me, and I was like, your dreams can come true too. So it's great that, you know, I can give back to that great program. So
Thank you, Kelly.
thank you.
You must be old. When I did it, it was at Nider Hall.
Yeah. It was.
So you're old.
I was a part of
I was
history.
before Nider Hall was built.
Jimmy built Nider Hall.
Quarried the rock, didn't he?
All right, next on the list, I know some old man. This side of the room, I'm going to start with this side of the room for anybody that wants to speak on anything on agenda items. I'll start with the second row. The following row. On this side of the room, the first row. Second row, third row, and the fourth row. Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for everyone that came forward. What fantastic programs and facilities, and what fantastic people we have in a township that were able to do that. And I think you came from, didn't you come from somewhere where you put a playground together, and that was copied too, wasn't it, as well?
I grew up here in Haverford Township, but I lived in Harrisburg for 9 years, and I built a playground there that, as far as I know, was actually the first fully handicap accessible playground in the country. And there again, after it was built, I got calls from Maine, California, down to Florida, people everywhere calling, trying to figure out what happened. So that was copied, that name was copied as well. But, you know.
The talents and the resources we have in this community are absolutely.
I remember at the Manoa Flea Market. You remember that? When I met you and you were talking about that, and I put you together with Tim, and that's how the whole playground started. It was great.
Do we have to do anything to address this one?
No, I mean, you want to address it? The climate
I
change?
wasn't here for this,
No, I mean,
this matter.
Yeah.
I would say attend the November 12th
Okay.
budget meeting.
I didn't hear it, that's why I didn't know what was going on. Okay. All right.
Can I address, Mr. President, the Human Relations Commission? Jen Leith, or the head of the Human Relations Commission, is one of the folks who spoke. Our agenda, we're going to take action, and if the action goes as I predict it's going to go, we may lose a member of the Human Relations Commission, and there are two other people on that commission that are cycling off at the end of 2017. Because the topic of the Human Relations Commission came up, I just wanted to make a pitch right now to the listening audience that for those folks considering submitting applications for positions within our many boards and commissions, I think a very, very important one is the Human Relations Commission, and we will have, as of December 31st, 2017, a significant need for folks to fill those spots. So if I could encourage anybody out there on the cusp of deciding whether or not to submit an application this year for consideration, I do know we will have significant need for the Human Relations Commission.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. So then moving forward, next on the agenda, we have the approval of minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. D'Amelio.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of September 11th, 2017.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity. Comments? There being none, please take the roll.
Emilio?
I wasn't at the meeting, but I did review the minutes, so is it, I don't believe I was at that meeting. I missed one of the Monday meetings. You can still vote.
Thank you.
Is it okay if I vote?
You're allowed to vote, sure.
Mr. Counselor? Yes.
Because you read them, right?
Make it clear.
He doesn't know
Yes.
if they're right, because he wasn't there.
They'll vote to approve them. I'm sorry?
So it doesn't matter if he read them, because he wasn't there to know if they were right or wrong.
You saw it on YouTube.
Okay, did you watch it on YouTube?
Did you review it with?
YouTube, actually, I did. I do go. I looked at it.
That's what I assumed, is that you were talking about the television.
Yeah, the hen thing, chicken thing was
Scintillating, yes.
Exhausting?
It was exhausting.
again.
Pulaski?
Again.
I said yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes, the motion carries. Item number 7 is the approval of warrants.
Mr. President.
Holmes.
President, I move we approve warrant number 10 of 2017 totaling $4,634,998.64, comprising the general and sewer fund payroll for September 7 of 2017 in the amount of $613,628.63. The general and sewer fund payroll for September 21, 2017, the amount of $638,150.45. The general fund disbursements number 10 of 2017 in the amount of $1,528,331.95. Sewer fund disbursements number 10 of 2017 in the amount of $229,477.10. Community Development Block Grant Fund Disbursement Number 10 of 2017 in the amount of $36,990.86. Capital Projects Fund Disbursement Number 10 of 2017 in the amount of $791,812.28. Debt service for the 2014 series of Haverford Township bonds, the interest component in the amount of $377,458.75. The debt service for the 2013 series of Haverford bonds, principal and interest component in the amount of $413,341.26. And the credit card statement ending September 27, 2017 in the amount of $5,807.36.
Second?
Seconded by, how about Mr. McCluskey?
And that was Commissioner Siegel.
Mr. President, our township auditor has reviewed these warrants. Any questions that his review has generated, he has taken those questions to the township staff, and his questions have been answered to his satisfaction. The township auditor has suggested that we approve these warrants, and I agree with him and recommend us to do so.
Okay, I'm going to wait till things get settled here a bit for a minute. Thank you, Commissioner. I'm just going to wait 1 minute. Everybody settle? Okay.
Jeopardy theme or something, or?
Okay, any further discussion? There being none, please take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
McGarity?
Yeah, I abstain. I don't know what we're voting on there.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
And Mr. Connell?
Yes, the motion carries. Item number 8 is appointment to the Library Board. Mr. Wexler?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to appoint James W. Brown to fill an unexpired 3-year term as a Library Board trustee to expire December 31st, 2019.
Second.
As you recall, last week we decided, we looked at the pool since with the death of one of our board trustees, we created, a vacancy was created. We went back to the candidates that we interviewed at the beginning of the year for boards and commissions. Mr. Brown was still interested. He met with 2 or 3 members of the board, Mr. Goldsmith and 2 other members, is extremely excited. Unfortunately, he's also a member of the Human Rights, the HRC, so we're going to lose a good person there and and move him to the library, where he originally had applied for, and we were so impressed with his talents last year that we appointed him to the HRC when we had other appointments for the library. So we've vetted him already last year. He's got great skills. He's got academic, a lot of management, budget experience. He'll be a great addition to the library with their renovation project. And I think Mr. Goldsmith, as the president of the board, is very excited about getting him on the board with his skill set.
Mr. President?
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. President, do we need to move to close nominations? If so, I do
There are
so.
no other nominations on the board that I am aware of, so we can close nominations.
So moved?
Yeah, Mr. Connell, would you put Andy Lewis down as seconding that vote?
I mentioned it, I seconded, Andy seconded.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. As long as it gets done.
I have Mr. Oliva down as seconding that vote.
Doesn't matter who's, doesn't matter.
Thank you very much. The nominations have been closed. And then I ask, Mr. Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Certainly, Mr. D'Amelio,
Mr. Brown.
Mr. McCluskey,
James Brown.
Mr. Siegel,
Dr. Brown.
Mr. Lewis,
James Brown.
Mr. Holmes,
James Brown.
Mr. McGarity,
James Brown.
Mr. Wexler,
Yes for Mr. Brown.
Mr. Oliva,
Mr. Brown.
and Mr. Connell.
Yes, for James W. Brown.
Dr. Brown.
That appointment carries. And Mr. Brown, welcome to the Library Board.
You're here.
Wherever you are.
Apologizes, he wanted to be here this evening to thank the board, but he is on grandparent duty. He's babysitting 2 of his grandchildren this evening.
Hope he's reading them a book.
I'm sure he
I
feels
believe
good.
he is.
We have one.
Okay.
knew he
Item number
would.
9 is ordinance number P14, 2017, and that deals with the fire department. Mr. Wexler?
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P14, 2007, further supplementing Chapter 165, taxation, and establishing Article 6, property tax credit to qualifying volunteers of Bonaire, Brookline, Lanark, Manoa, and Oakmont Fire Companies.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. D'Amelio. And I will open the floor to any conversation, discussion.
As you recall, we discussed this at the work session last week. Ms. Cuthbertson has, we have made some changes that are appropriate and beneficial for the township, and this will be the form of a credit back to any volunteers who meet the criteria. They have to qualify under a point system that was approved by the Bureau of Fire and will be maintained by each fire company. Those hours will be certified and approved before they're sent to the township as people that qualify for that tax credit.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Bill and Amy for their hard work on this, and, you know, it's great that we're doing something for our volunteers.
There's a lot of credit to go around. The Recruitment and Retention Committee, which
Yep, them
Chris is
too.
involved with, first came up with the idea, and then we got lucky. The state, Representative Santoro had this approved at the state level that municipalities could then pass this credit and tax relief on to volunteers, firemen throughout the state. So we're one of the first, we're not the first, but we're one of the earliest adapters of the ability to do this for our volunteers. So.
Well, you know, and Chris, you've been a volunteer for many years. You were with Lanark for how many years?
43.
And you were one that I remember also saying, you know, we need to do something.
I believe it was you who brought this up, right?
I think you did, right?
It was. But you know what? But
Thank you.
Mrs. Cuthbertson was
Thank you.
absolutely the one who put everything together, who did the groundwork for this, and thank you very, very much for your expertise on this. Thank you. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
you guys deserve the credit. Very good. They're going to be happy.
Mr. Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Certainly, Mr. D'Amelio,
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey,
Yes.
Mr. Siegel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mr. McGarity,
Yes.
Mr. Wexler,
Yes.
Mr. Oliva,
Yes.
and Mr. Connell.
Yes, the first reading carries. Motion. Number 10, ordinance number P15, 2017, RHM.
Mr. President?
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. President, I move that we adopt an ordinance, the second reading of the 50-year extension agreement with the RHM. And I think I'm supposed to read this whole thing. Move to adopt the second reading of ordinance number P15, 2017, approving an ordinance signifying the intention of the Township of Haverford to renew and continue the continually organized municipal authority known as the Radnor-Haverford-Marple Sewer Authority within the townships of Radnor and Marple, all of Delaware County, Pennsylvania, to be organized and existing under the provisions of the Municipality Authorities Act of 2001, the Act of June 19, 2001, Public Law 287 is amended, Section 53 Pennsylvania statutes, sections 5601 through 5623, setting forth the articles of incorporation, confirming the appointments of the members of the board of the authority, confirming the compensation of the members of said board, authorizing and directing the execution of the articles of incorporation, and the doing of all things necessary and appropriate to effect and reestablish said authority, and repealing and rescinding all ordinances or resolutions or parts thereof which are inconsistent herewith.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Wexler.
I think we should do this just so I don't have to read that again.
I'm glad you took it.
This will be a second reading, so, any discussion?
Yeah, I know there were minor changes to make to addresses and things like that and titles within, but everything's been done. I've looked at it myself, so
And
I think
just
we should
that
pass it.
one part
Okay.
there on that president, vice president?
It was corrected, yep.
That was corrected?
And
All
it was
right.
confirmed.
Thank you. And that was Mr. Wexler. Okay, Mr. Secretary, please take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
And Mr. Connell?
Yes, the motion carries. That second reading. I just want to make one comment. I'm backing up to the prior, item number 9, the tax credit for volunteer firefighters. I just want everyone to know I do not benefit from this ordinance, so I am not getting anything from it. So I just want to make that known out there. Okay? Thank you.
While we're
Item number 11, ordinance P 16, 2017, gathering and parks. This is a second reading. Mr. Lee?
Motion to adopt the second reading of ordinance number P16, 2017, amending and supplementing chapters 126, Parks, Playground, and Township Property. Section 5, certain activities permitted in parks by permit only is hereby amended by reducing the number of persons engaged in parties or gatherings to 15. I believe it was 25.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McGarity,
And I believe it was 25.
and the one from 25 to
Okay.
15. Comments, discussion? There being none, please take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel stepped out. Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes, the motion carries. Item number 12, ordinance P 20, 2017, is a traffic first reading.
Mr. President, I would move
Lewis.
to adopt the first reading of ordinance number P 20, 2017, authorizing the establishment of traffic restrictions on the following highway: parking of all vehicles prohibited at all times, Highland Lane, south side, 100 feet west of Coopertown Road.
Seconded. Mr. Wexler, thank you. Discussion or comment? There being none, please take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel still stepped out. Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 13 is agreement with healthcare.
Mr. President.
Mr. Holmes.
Mr. President, I move we approve a 3-year extension with the Delaware County Public Schools Health Care Trust.
Second.
Second by Mr. D'Amelio. Conversation, discussion, or?
Yeah, Mr.
Comments?
President, this is, yes, Mr. President, this is something we discussed last week at our work session. Amy Cuthbertson described to us the significance of this agreement. It is the renewal of agreement that we have already participated in that places our organization, our municipality, within the Delaware County Public Schools Healthcare Trust, a consortium of municipalities and school districts that together are able to negotiate hospital, medical, surgical, prescription drug, dental, and/or vision benefits on behalf of the entire body of the trust, as a consequence of which we are in a very strong negotiating power, and that is revealed by the news that we've gotten that so far our negotiations for next year's health care benefits, all of the benefits for our township employees are at a very, very moderate level. I believe 0% increase. That is a direct consequence of the buying power that this healthcare trust imbues us with. So I recommend wholeheartedly that we re-enter this agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Anything further? There being none, please take the roll.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. McGarity?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Oliva?
Yes.
And Mr. Connell?
Yes, the motion carries. Item number 14 is the continuation of citizens' forum for non-agenda items. Is there anybody on this side of the room? Is there anybody on this side of the room? Yes, please come forward. Welcome to the podium.
Good evening again. My name is Mary Shannon, and I live at 113 East Marquardt Avenue in Havertown. I am the program manager at the library, and I wanted to just make you all aware of two major fundraising events that we will be doing in November, both on the same day. Saturday, November 11th, at 8 a.m. we will have our first ever 5K race and fun run, starting at 8 o'clock. Our route goes down Mill Road to Carricong to Manoa, and back to the library. We are really excited about this run. We also have the great Dewey Decimal running the race as well. And we will have other storybook characters there running in the fun run. So we would like to ask you all to help us get the word out, since it is a first-year race. We are raising funds for our upcoming renovations. And so anything you can do to help us get the word out about that race would be greatly appreciated. I also want to tell you, on the same day, we are having our Eat, Drink, and Be Merry Gala at the library from 6:30 to 10:30. We will be having literary fare and literary cocktails at the gala. And we also would very much like to see you all there and to help us also get the word out about our gala. Again, money's going towards our upcoming renovations.
Super.
So
That's
that's
great.
it.
I'll tell you, great things are happening at the library, aren't they? That's super. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the citizens forum for non-agenda items. And moving on to item number 15, new business. Does anybody have anything under new business?
Yes,
Mr. D'Amelio.
Mr. President, in the past couple of months, this board has passed important resolutions. And one of them obviously was something we discussed this evening, which is climate change. And in light of what has occurred in Las Vegas, I have a resolution that I would like to present to this board. And can I ask that this be added this evening?
We'll add it to the agenda.
May I ask this board if we can do that?
You certainly can.
Sure, you have to make a motion.
I'd like to make, what, do you want me to read the entire resolution?
Yeah,
or-
yeah,
Yep.
we have to know.
Okay. Whereas the resolution is number 2017, whereas a Township of Haverford Board of Commissioners desire to state their opposition. Well, why don't I hand this out too? Can I do that? I have copies for everyone before I read it so you guys can look at it.
And can't he just first move to add
I was gonna
consideration
say,
of a resolution to the
let's just-
agenda? I move that we add to the agenda the consideration of Commissioner D'Amelio's resolution, which he's now passing out.
Second.
I assume we can do this by voice vote, Mr. Solicitor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Is there anybody abstaining?
There you go. Pass it.
The ayes
Finish
have
your
it.
punch.
Okay, I will read this now. Whereas the Township of Haverford Board of Commissioners desire to state their opposition to the sale and possession of equipment and devices used to modify a semi-automatic weapon to operate like a fully automatic weapon. Whereas there is no dispute, and the Township has a legitimate important interest in promoting public safety to include prevention of mass shootings. Whereas fully automatic firearms, those that result in a continuous stream of bullets with a single pull of the trigger, are highly regulated. Whereas legal semi-automatic weapons can be easily modified to operate like a fully automatic machine gun using devices that are easily purchased, such as bump stock and other similar devices. And whereas, citing the reasoning in United States versus Henry with respect to the regulation of the bump stock, a federal district court judge believes that this type of attachment can be restricted without running afoul of the Second Amendment because it is an attachment that effectively converts a lawful weapon into an unlawful weapon. Whereas the Township deems it appropriate to request that the United States Congress to review the current law and pass a bill making it unlawful for any person to possess, sell or manufacture a bump stock device or any similar device or accessory that is designed to accelerate the rate of fire of a semi-automatic rifle to that of a fully automatic weapon. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners that the township to request the United States Congress to review the current law and pass a bill making it unlawful for any person to possess, sell, or manufacture a bump stock device or any similar device or accessory that is designed to accelerate the rate of fire of a semi-automatic rifle to that of a fully automatic weapon.
Second.
Resolved.
Second.
Resolved this day,
Okay. So
6th.
we'll open the floor. We will start with you.
The reason? Well, I mean, I think
For
it's...
any discussion, I'm going to say discussion.
Well, listen, I think this board knows that I'm about public safety, and certainly I agree that we have a right to possess weapons, but a weapon such as this is very dangerous. I mean, it's obvious what occurred, that anyone can purchase this and make it an automatic weapon, and just to create mayhem and to kill many people. Looking at the lives of those 58 and who they were and watching it on television really moved me. And I think that, look, we have to take stands. We've taken stands with the climate. We've taken stands on other issues. This is an important stand that we can send to Congress. And I think most other municipalities and Americans need to do something like this. We need to do something to stop the senseless killing that is occurring in the United States. And, you know, every little bit helps. And, you know, this is not something I think should be out there. So I'm hoping I get this board's support, that we send a message to the United States Congress that we, this community, wants to end the sale of the bump stock.
I agree.
Thank you.
Mr. D'Amelio?
Mr. Holmes?
Mr. D'Amelio, I think, while I think an action like this is like taking a bucket of water out of the ocean, if we take enough buckets of water out of the ocean, we'll drain the ocean. So let's do it. I'm 100% behind you. I think it's obscene that these things are even available. And for all these years on this board and all my talk about being Mr. Liberal, this will be the first official act I've ever taken to start to do something about gun control in America. So thanks for raising it. I'm happy to do it.
Mr. President?
Mr. Siegel?
I support this. I only wish we would go further. For those who don't know, and I think most members of this board know my background, I was a member of the board of handgun control prior to the Bradys. I was the founding president of Pennsylvanians Against Handgun Violence, which is now Ceasefire Pennsylvania. And since I was in college, so we're talking the late 70s, I have devoted time both in front of and behind the scenes on the issue of gun control. What continues to happen in this country is words don't really fit anymore. This is an excellent, gesture by this board. And I support it, and thank you, Mr. D'Amelio. I don't always agree on a lot of things, but we agree on this. But I can only hope that with all the tragedies that have gone on, small and large, we lose a generation to guns. We're losing a generation to opioids. We lose a generation to guns. They kill. And it's been typically them who have been the victims. Now when you see Las Vegas, people relate to it more. But it is really time, because we have preemption both in this state and federally, that we really need to urge the legislators, both in Harrisburg and in Washington, to do more. This is a first step that I agree with. I just hope it isn't one bucket out of the ocean, and that finally people realize that we cannot continue to lose generations to guns and to other things.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. Mr. McGarity?
Yeah, well, Steve, on the semi-automatic weapons that can be usually modified to operate, like a machine gun. And where I agree with you is on the fact of eliminating those. But a federal district court judge believes that this type of attachment can be restricted without running afoul of the Second Amendment, because I do believe in the Second Amendment. If you live in places like Wellsboro and places like that, you do need something there because of the fact that the police could be 25 miles to the other end of town, and you could have somebody breaking into your place of your residence of home. And with that, I agree with the legal sale of the not selling the semi-automatic weapons, but I do believe in the Second Amendment.
Well, this has more to do with the bump stock. I mean, I think most of us in this room, I didn't even know what it was until the tragedy occurred in Las Vegas. This has really nothing to do with eliminating semi-automatic weapons, but it's eliminating the bump stock that makes it an automatic weapon. You follow? You follow what I'm saying? I never even knew what a bump stock. I don't think that anybody.
There's a big difference between having something to protect yourself, as Mr. McGarity says, and having something that can fire a tremendous amount of bullets so quickly. So this is what we have to control.
Yeah, I mean, those people, those innocent people.
I believe in people protecting themselves, but
they were from all walks of life, didn't have a chance, not one chance to survive, and some of them gave up their lives for other people. And you know what? I'm okay with the Second Amendment. I think we have a right to own guns, but we've got to limit some of these things that are occurring. We have to do something to stop some of the senseless killings that have been occurring in the United States. I'm not sure if we need to have automatic weapons that just fire continually and kill and maim everyone.
Steve, I totally agree with you. Having been in the Army and the military, there's only one reason to have an automatic weapon. That's why they're issued to the military. They are there strictly to kill people. They're rapid fire. Has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. The ability to modify a semi-automatic weapon into an automatic weapon is for one reason and one reason only. It's not for protection. It's not for hunting. It's not for target shooting. It's to kill people. That's the only reason that you would modify that. That's why it's been modified by organized crime, drug cartels, and people that just want to get their thing off. It's designed. It's a military modification. It's designed for warfare, and warfare kills people. So I totally support this, and I think to our credit, it's a great leadership position to take. This is going to be a grassroots effort throughout the country. It's got to start at the very level of government, the very bottom level of government where we are, and move up and get our legislators to take, as Mr. Siegel said, in Harrisburg and Washington. We just have to get on this. So thank you.
Mr. President, I would concur with all that's been said. I would just suggest that if the board does pass this resolution, that we forward this on to Congressman Meehan and to our two United States senators as being adopted by this board.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I must say something about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is part of our Bill of Rights. Every one of the rights that individuals kept in the Bill of Rights is subject to regulation under our law. The only one that we fight back about is the Second Amendment. It's wrong. The Second Amendment does not mean that we get to live the way we live with weapons in this country. We have the rights under the Second Amendment. We have the rights under the First Amendment to peaceably assemble, but I can get arrested if I scream and yell and jump around at a city council meeting. Reporters can go to jail for refusing to give up their sources. We have the rights to be free from invasion in our home under the Fourth Amendment, but the cops can still come into our house with search warrants and under exigent circumstances not go into our houses. Go into our houses without search warrants. Every one of our individual freedoms under the Bill of Rights are subject to reasonable regulations and reasonable laws, except the Second Amendment. We can do a lot of things to control guns and not offend the rights we have under the Second Amendment, the same way we regulate speech, but still respect the First Amendment, the same way we allow police to enforce the law, but still respect the Fourth Amendment. So this doesn't run afoul in any manner with the rights we have under the Second Amendment. I'm a strong believer in the Second Amendment, but all of our amendments, all of our individual rights under our Constitution are subject to meaningful and reasonable regulations, and the Second Amendment shouldn't be exempted from them.
if I may, and I don't want to get into a Second Amendment debate, the Second Amendment isn't exempt. The Supreme Court has never said that. What they have said is it is subject to reasonable regulation. I ask anyone in this audience or anyone watching, do you believe that a convicted murderer or a rapist should own a weapon? And the answer is no. And Pennsylvania law and federal law limits those people. It limits people who have a history of violence against women, et cetera, et cetera. What we're talking about with any of this is what are reasonable actions to try to prevent senseless violence that kills. This is one such action. There isn't a significant difference between an automatic and a semi-automatic weapon, but there are differences, and what happened in Las Vegas highlights what happens when you convert one weapon into another, and that's why this resolution makes total sense.
So this resolution is going to stand as is, and it will be sent on to our higher representatives. Mr. Oliva?
Well, again, I agree with what was said on this board. I think that we need to have some regulation that some of these devices are just, you have a right to protect yourself, but you don't have a right to have a weapon that, as Bill said, belongs in the Army. It's just for killing. So I totally wholeheartedly support this. And
My heart goes out to the victims of Las Vegas, and all these people came from all over the world and all over the country, and some of the stories are. I mean, I urge people to go and look at those stories. They're very sad, and again, people giving up their lives, husbands jumping on their wives, and one I know was a nurse. She was a physician, and her husband jumped on her back, and she said she felt the bullet hit him in the back, and he died in her arms. It's very sad.
Thank you again, Commissioner, very much. Kudos to you for bringing this to the board, this resolution.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Mr. Connell, if I could, just before we vote on this, and I,
Mr. McCluskey.
And I fully support Mr. D'Amelio's resolution and think it's a necessary step. And I think, it's helpful to have conversations like this, and I think we can go farther in the sense of it would be inappropriate in new business, but there's a concept in Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh at one point passed a law where it was required that you reported a lost or stolen gun. And there's language out there whereby it could be enacted by municipal authority. So beyond a resolution, I think that is the potential for a practical step that in the next couple of months we could put on the agenda for one of our work sessions to explore as a step beyond a resolution, to see if it's something we should consider as a township. And something as a local municipal authority to sort of back up what we're hopefully going to pass tonight. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right.
Does anybody else have anything further? This does not have a catalog number, so Mr. Secretary, you'll
We'll add a number to it.
add a number?
Yep.
Okay. If there is nothing further, please take a...
Mr. D'Amelio.
Yes.
Mr. McCluskey.
Yes.
Mr. Siegel.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Holmes.
Yes.
Mr. McGarity.
I stated my position, and I'll vote yes.
Mr. Wexler.
Yes.
Mr. Oliva.
Yes.
And Mr. Connell.
Yes. And your motion carries.
Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else under new business?
Mr. President?
Mr. Lewis? Yeah, Mr. Lewis.
We look alike.
I don't think so. I'm sorry. Sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Mr. Siegel, you have the floor. Right.
Yes, thank you. We've discussed previously, in honor of the memory and life of Jan Marie Rushforth, of having some form of dedication to her. Mr. Denny, the Assistant Township Manager, had discussed this with Alan Rushforth, Jan Marie's husband, and we are proposing, or he with consensus of this board that they dedicate the environmental lab at the Community Recreation Center in memory of Jan Marie with a ceremony scheduled right now for Sunday, November 19th. I don't know if we need a
Would you repeat that,
resolution.
please? That date,
Remember
please?
what?
19th.
19th.
I don't know if we need a resolution to approve this, but I think it's incumbent that this board know about it, we discuss it, we demonstrate our approval for it.
Do we need to?
I don't think we need a
Yeah,
resolution.
we don't need a resolution.
No.
Just do it as a.
I didn't-
I am happy to have that done. I think
Yeah.
she's done a lot, and she
Yeah.
deserves much more than that.
She certainly does.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Mr. Siegel. Okay.
Not Mr. Lewis.
Not
Does
Mr.
anybody else have anything under new business? There being none, we will go on. Next agenda item is other business, and we will start with Mr. D'Amelio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope everyone had a nice Columbus Day yesterday. I want to report that the police department will be moving into the new building on Monday by 8 a.m. And you'll have access to, on the West Manoa Road side, and there will be signs posted, Chief?
That's correct.
Right?
Yes. We'll have we expect to have our first roll call Sunday night, and the building will be operational for the public at 8 a.m. Monday morning. We have a lot of moving to do over a 3-day period starting early Sunday morning. We'll have ample signage showing that the old building is closed, directing people onto Darby Road, Manoa Road, and to the Boyle's driveway, which is Columbia Road. And that'll be marked amply so everybody will know where to go, because it's the only limited access we have at the present time until the remainder of the building is finished.
Good. Good for you guys.
Is there a ribbon cutting to that, John?
We'll have a ribbon cutting at another time, I'm sure.
Be blue.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And who will police that?
Well,
One other thing, I mean, obviously, I want to thank, forgetting your name, Kevin. It's a long night. He ran
Just call him Lewis.
yes,
Mr.
Lewis. He
We
helped
call everybody Mr. Lewis.
MC
They all look the
the
same.
HADA meeting, was it about a week ago?
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, and it was a very important meeting, and we had citizens there, we had our experts there, police were there, Jim McCann's was there, and unfortunately, a gentleman had lost his son to opioid addiction, and a young lady from our township who was brave enough to be in attendance to talk about her addiction issues and how she conquered them, but how difficult it is as well. And Kevin, I want to thank you for your work with that, and it was very important. But we want to keep that message out there. You know, if anyone's having an issue, reach out to that group. It's a wonderful group, and they will do everything they can to help you and your family to try to beat this horrible addiction problem. That's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. McCluskey?
Sure. We passed something earlier tonight about the fire companies, and this week happens to be Fire Safety Week. Oakmont Fire Company is having their annual open house on October 12th, this Thursday night, from 7 to 8. Please feel free to stop by. Bring the kids, let them wander around the firehouse. It's a good time. The Moorwood Park Civic Association this Saturday afternoon is having a playground day. If everyone wants to come out and see the new equipment, and also talk about where that association is moving in the future. So that's Saturday afternoon, October 14th at Moorwood Park. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Siegel?
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple of things. First, I want to thank the township, the staff, the commissioners for their condolences and expressions of sympathy on the passing of my mother-in-law, who was a professional musician and a drummer, which is not typical for a mother-in-law. But what I didn't know until Tim Denny visited my house was that when he came here 36 years ago, he received a grant, and my mother-in-law in one of her bands, and she, if you watch her on YouTube, you'll see she was not just a musician, but a world-class one, received one of those grants and played, I think you said, at Hilltop. 36 years ago when he started in the town. Summer Sounds was the group, and that group continues until this summer, and she performed on July 4th, to perform every year in Ballackinwood, et cetera, et cetera. But I do want to thank everyone, but I had no idea about the connection with Mr. Denny. Yes, that's true. And the world knew her. A couple of other items. She didn't need warning. There was no one feistier or more passionate. We are having the joint 3rd and 4th Ward constituent meeting will be in this room next Wednesday, October 18th at 7 p.m. I know Mr. Gentili won't be here, but we'll have the assistant township manager, police officials, et cetera, so that residents, as always, can speak directly with them, get answers to questions, et cetera. That's at 7 o'clock in this room. A couple of things from some of the civic associations in the 4th Ward. The Linwood Park Civic Association is sponsoring its Spooktacular Party for Halloween on Saturday, October 28th, from 10 to 11 at the Foster Tract. The Paddock Farm Civic Association will have their Oktoberfest on Sunday, October 22nd from 11 to 1 in Paddock Park. And on November 4th, for the first time, they're having a golf outing at Paxson Hollow. There is more information about these items, as well as there'll be more information about their canned food drive on their webpage. Another item is that Lieutenant Glenn is participating this Saturday in the Run Walk for the Badge 5K, and it raises money for the National Law Enforcement Memorial Foundation. He set a goal of raising $500. To date, he has raised $1,475 with a $500 pledge that has not yet been processed from the McDonald's in Havertown. And he will be the second, at this point, highest fundraiser of anyone participating in the event. It would be great if our officer was number one, so I encourage anyone to look up the Run Walk for the Badge 5K and donate in honor of Lieutenant Glenn. Finally, since we do have Mary Bear Shannon here, and she is the program director for the library, I guess I'd be a little remiss if I didn't mention that the library is having a program on October 30th about understanding the Pennsylvania Workers' Compensation Act, and that's from 7 to 8:30, and I'm the speaker. It's so I plan to be there. And as I have done with many of the books that I've published, I do have a copy of the book that I'll donate to the library. I'll give it to Mary after the meeting, but that's Monday, October 30th from 7 to 8:30, and it's for businesses and others to just get basic information about how to deal with issues relating to workers' compensation. And that's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank the EAC and the many volunteers for their time and efforts in providing us the Climate Action Plan Progress Report and for identifying opportunities for us to do more in reducing our carbon footprint. So thank you, Peter, for taking leadership on that. Also, I want to thank Ann Phillips, who for her efforts in with regard to the Freedom Playground. Obviously, that asset would not have, or that playground would not have been built without your leadership. And I love the fact that it is now an example for other communities to follow. So, and I appreciate your continued stewardship over that asset, that great asset that in our community, and really an asset for the region. So thank you for what you're doing. Finally, on our favorite topic, College Avenue Bridge, that continues to be work in progress. They are not telling us exactly when. They don't have a new completion date, but it looks like it's going to be somewhere in the April to May timeframe at this point, which is about 5 or 6 months behind schedule. And it's supposed to be done this month. And PennDOT, after a year, has finally recognized that they should be having regular meetings and updates with stakeholders, and Commissioner McCluskey and I, along with, I think Larry Gentili will join us, will be meeting with PennDOT later this month and be getting continual updates on that bridge and its progress or lack of progress. And most importantly, I think we want to, I know that Commissioner McCluskey shares my view, as does Larry, we want to make sure that we impress upon PennDOT that the mistakes that have been made in this particular project, the College Avenue project, are not repeated. And I have told you before, they relate to the relocation of utilities and the fact that that should have been done prior to the bridge actually closing. And we want to try to make sure that those utilities are relocated prior to the Ardmore Avenue bridges being closed, which will happen after the College Avenue bridge is reopened. So more updates to follow. So that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Holmes?
Mr. President, thank you. A couple of things. I would also like to thank the EAC for their hard work. We had talked about maybe having this last week at the work session. The EAC had asked for some more time to finish their presentation in light of the significant work that you presented to us today. We certainly understand the time it took and appreciate the time all of you dedicate for free to this very good cause. So thank you for that. The South Ardmore Betterment Association is having the Normandy Camp Out this Saturday night on the 14th. Go to SABA's Facebook page or web site to look into the details of that. Between now and our next meeting, we will not be having a work session. What would normally be scheduled for November the 6th, which is Monday night, is the night before Election Day. And since some of us will be meeting some of our constituents for the very first time, and that's an inside joke from the debate, we will only be having a regular meeting on the 14th of November. I'm sorry, the 13th of November. And 1 week later, November the 20th, we will be having our first budget meeting. So with regards to the election, there's two things I want to point out. The only thing you can do wrong in this election season, in this world that we live in now, where information is available to everybody at their fingertips, the only sin that you can commit during election season is to be uninformed. You can only be uninformed if you choose to stay uninformed. You have to actually avoid information about people and about candidates and about issues. So please don't do that, and don't commit the second sin, which is to stay home on Election Day and not participate in the most important thing we do each year. Local elections, as I've said over and over, are so crucial for our lives. 95% of what's decided in our lives takes place in small rooms like these all across America. So take this election very seriously. And there is an issue of significance on this election. It is a ballot question relating to the exemption of state of taxation of the median value of properties within townships and taxing authorities. This is a complicated issue. I encourage all of you, before you vote yes or no on that ballot issue, to take a look at it and analyze it and see what different people have to say about that issue. I don't, sitting here today, October 10th, yet even understand it enough to know how I'm going to vote on that issue. So it's an important ballot issue, so please do take a look at it. That is all I have, and I'll look forward to seeing everybody on the other side.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Mr. McGarity.
I think Larry whacked me again. The blood's starting to come out, so, you know.
I know we saw it. Yeah.
No, listen, I have quite a bit here. First of all, I'm standing too close here. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out last Saturday for Haverford Township Day.
Beautiful, beautiful day.
I believe that we probably had the biggest crowd ever. It was well organized. Chris Connolly, you did a great job, along with everybody else. Also, as you're aware, our employees and the police department did a great job all along. And if you went by the Brookline that night at 6 o'clock, You would have never known there was 15,000 people along Haverford Township roads because they were all clean. I go by there after it's all over, I check everything out, and they do a great job. Yeah, you wouldn't even known that there was those people there. The Public Works Department and the police did a great job that day. The Toys for Tot this year will be on December the 8th at the Brookline Firehouse at 7 p.m. Also, this Friday night at the Brookline Firehouse, Fire Prevention Week, it'll be this Friday night, 6:30 at the Brookline Firehouse. As I said, the police are opening their building at 8 a.m. on Monday. And I'd also like to personally thank and mention to Larry Gentili two things. Number one, we're getting a bike rack down Brookline because the kids are throwing their bikes on the sidewalks down there. And some of our seniors and regular people are walking along and they can't get through. So Larry and I went and looked at it, and we're getting a bike rack there in the parking lot for them. So they don't have an excuse. They don't have a place to put their bike. And this is more important. The second thing is Larry had an illness in the family, very serious, and he's here tonight doing his job. It's my birthday, and I'm not asking you to sing happy birthday, but I want to thank Larry. He got me a cake, and he did all that, and he's got all these problems on his mind tonight, and I personally thank you very much, Larry, for that. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Wexler?
Yes, I'd just like to echo Commissioner Holmes. Please go out and vote November the 7th. It's our civic duty, and it gives you your right to complain. I always jokingly tell people, if you didn't vote, you can't complain to me. So please go out there and vote. Turnout, even though it's not a major election, it does affect us locally with county council and many other appointments. So please exercise your right to go there. I also like to thank the EAC. We have a great opportunity to become leaders in this. It looked like it was a Herculean effort to get data from 2008 to 2015 and get us that base. As a business person, what I'd like to see now is this come back to our board. I'd like to see the 2016 data when it's available, and then start trending on an annual basis. Because we can only react and take a leadership position and make changes each year as we see the trends. So we can't get involved in the two specifics of which building does what, but we're going to be able to see the trends. Now that we've got the base data through 2015, and take a look at the following year, and then this year as it ends, we'll get the trends, and we'll be able to make informed decisions to take a good leadership position. So thank you for that data, and keep it coming at a smaller, at an annual clip, so we can actually spot those trends and take action when it's needed, as opposed to 5 years after the fact, so that we can monitor that and try and make that goal. I think we have a great opportunity for leadership there. And then I would just ask, as the library liaison, please support the library on November 12th with their gala at the library. The 11th, November, Veterans Day, and the run that morning. So it's a great opportunity to support there. We need the money for that, our makeover and renovations there, and a great celebration to get that building going. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Levy, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. How about Mr. Lewis?
No.
He talks
all right. Too much.
All right. So first of all, I'd like to say what a great time it was for Haverford Township Day. What a great job, Mr. Denny. Fantastic job. Want to congratulate some of the people. The whole theme of Haverford Township Day was improvements to our parks. And Ann Phillips, who's here in the audience, what a great job. Jan Marie Rushforth, who helped us a lot. People like Gene Angel and Dan Twaddle, who did helped us with Mark Armind, with the skate park. Just all those people. It was nice to have a picture there with everyone. Great job to those people. I want to also remind everybody that Lanark Fire Company has their open house on October 13th at 6 p.m. That's Friday. And I also wanted to talk about the climate action plan. I know that Peter has been grilling me pretty hard on getting an electric vehicle, and okay, Peter. Anyway, but I do want to mention to everyone what wasn't in presentation was the fact that we can do so much to you know, a lot more than this township can do, but individually, if we do enough, like, I have a tankless hot water heater, which saves a lot of energy. Switching to all renewable energy, which Peter has talked me into, reduces your carbon footprint. So if we all do that, if we all do just little things across 16 or 17,000 households, it's going to make a big difference in this township, much more than what we can do. So just wanted to remind everybody that to do what you can.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Peter, thank you again. You represent also the 8th Ward and have for many years. So thank you for doing that for the 8th Ward, and thank you for doing that for me. I greatly appreciate it.
I'm sorry, one other thing. There's going to be a lot of, just came out today, I'm sorry. PECO's doing a lot of work in Lanark. So if you live in Lanark, you'll be receiving letters from PECO about work that they're doing in the area.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
And Anna, we can't thank you enough. I got you, really. So as we mentioned before, November 7th is Election Day. Please, everybody, come out to the polls. It is it's our right, it's our civic duty, and it is so very important to move the country forward, to move your local municipality forward, and just by simply voting. We won't be here for the work session on the 6th. We will reconvene on Monday, November 13th for the general session, right now at 7 p.m. So does anybody else have anything for the betterment of the board? There being none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. See everybody next month.